Welcome, dear friends, to the horror of transitoriness. For instance, 2 days ago I was okay, now I have a cold. Excuse me. Just for demonstration, yeah? But we don't only talk about the horror of transiency or transitoriness, but also how to escape it. In order to escape an enemy, you have to know its fighting style, you have to know its strategy, you have to know its logic. So therefore, let us concentrate for the moment a bit more on the horror of transiency or transitoriness. There is in the Book of Light a train of thought. A train of thought. We say, and maybe you agree, the Book of Light teaches what is known as perishable, and for that very reason sorrowful to me. One should consider wisely, it does not belong to me. I am not this, that I am aware of arising and passing away. No, this is not myself. This is a safer way of defining or of answering a question, who am I? Because if you may say I'm this and that, and then suddenly you are not this and that. So the safer way is to ask, who am I not? Always simple example, already for our children. A 5-year-old can understand me if he listens and can handle his life from now on better. Let your children listen to this too. For instance, 3 Nobel Award winners sit around an apple, and they met to discuss how is the shape of the core of the kernel. And they talk and talk and talk. And the 5-year-old comes in, takes a knife, cuts the apple open and says, here, that's the shape. It is that easy, dear friends. And it is that easy as it is complicated and difficult as science wants to make it for us, so we can worship them as gods of science and pay them their fat salaries. And they are abusing, misusing, soiling this planet and its atmosphere to an extent that nobody would have ever thought of it. So, dear scientists, if you have a heart and a conscience, you better listen. And you better reduce yourself to the mindset of a 5-year-old. Otherwise, you may not be able to understand me and the Book of Light. So, dear friends, following that logic, I am right now, and it's a good example, using a vehicle that I am not, but that I caused through my incarnation, forming matter as it is now in my physical body. So I'm using what I can use, although that body, not me, has a cold. So I hope you hang in there with me, even if I have that cold, or rather I don't have it. Or you could say I have a cold, but not I am a cold. See, I am using that transient body. It's a big difference. So, Book of Light teaches wisely what is known as perishable and as sorrowful. Therefore, we must consider that does not belong to me. I am not myself. Now, many of you may argue, wait a moment. My body is perishable maybe, but it's not sorrowful to me. Really? Okay. Wait and see. I don't want to depress you here. I just want to make you aware. I was sitting at the deathbeds of many people in Los Angeles and in Germany, in the hospices. I could tell you stories. When the moment comes, how they turn into whimpering little children. I don't want to die, Lanu, I don't want to die. Well. Because you identified yourself for so long with your physical body, then now you think you die. See all these criminals like Soros or Clinton or other leaders, who are satanic people. Yeah, they felt very nice while they could abuse little children and other people and whatever. But then when death comes, you can see them shaking because they know where they go. It's not over. If you know the Book of Light and if you follow our teachings, then you will understand. And if you click on that link here, you will have 10 volumes of the Book of Light at no expense. Okay. So welcome to the horror of transiency. See, the horror of transiency you see even now when the phone calls. So even my words, they are interrupted. According to Book of Light, you do the wrong thing if you get upset because something does not go your way. And this is a reaction that many people have. Something doesn't go their way, oh, they freak out. I don't freak out anymore. I have the teaching. There was a time when I freaked out, I can tell you that much. Now, the question arises from what is given, and an answer always connected with realization. So, what is a realization? When I experience my body as arising and passing away, I may very well be authorized to say, this belongs not to me. This I am not. This is not myself. I am not that body who has a cold, come on. But I have no other vehicle, no other vahan, no other upadhi to use it to talk to you. And you see, I had 6 pneumonia attacks, and the doctor, if I really understand what is transient or transitory, or arising and passing away, then I may come to the decision that this cannot be me, otherwise I would not experience a change, and then to think about it. Should I reincarnate in that transitory situation, or should I detach from it completely and not return, at least here on earth? See, people who live chaste, celibate, if they do that consequently, they will not be reborn on earth. Don't you think so? They will be reborn on a level where all the other higher evolved, more spiritually evolved people are, because in order to become chaste and celibate, you would have to avoid that desire. And once you have avoided it, you cannot be anymore returned to a state of that desire. Now, that's up to you. That was just a little hint. We could go into that for hours. But first, let us identify the animal. The enemy, sorry. You see how my English is not very good. I mean, I lived quite some years in Los Angeles, but I tried to do my best. So please forgive me when I sometimes choose the wrong words. Now, this is only for, I always say it, the Book of Light is too early. And this is for 3 or 4 people. 3 or 4 people, not more. Maybe 5. You know what I mean? But it should not hold me back from spreading the teaching of the Book of Light. If somebody is really a philosopher in his life, looking at life philosophically as a philosopher, then he will be deeply affected by the transitoriness of everything earthly. Now, if there would be no escape from that situation, his heart would break, and the hearts of many break because of that, believe me. It would be a severe shock for him. And so he looks for an answer. Oh, we go to heaven? Yeah, is that eternal? No. This is a radical lecture, dear friends. I'm talking about transitoriness. And transitoriness is up to the highest heavens. So the promise of the Muslimic and Christian scriptures is not okay. It is not accurate. It is not even correctly translated. Because when you look at the Bible, it says we are eons in heaven. Well, and they translated eons with eternal, but eon is Greek, from Ionias, and it means a very long time. And it doesn't mean that you can fall from heavenly realms down onto earth. Many would argue, no, once I'm in heaven, even Buddhists, no, once I'm in heaven, everything's okay. Really? Where was the first war? In what realm? On earth? I don't think so. It was in heaven. Think twice. If you look for a situation where you are really safe, therefore, if I see something as not myself, I have the possibility to give it up. I have also the possibility to cling again to it and to reincarnate it in the new life. Especially then you need the Book of Light, because it explains to you the machinery. But we are talking here about the horror first. The horror. And that horror of transiency will become your teacher. Because one day you say, I've had it with that horror. I've had it being born, living, dying, born, living, dying, born, living, dying, born, living, dying. How long, how much more? Isn't there something else? That was, by the way, the reason the Buddha left his home and said to his father and to his wife, and she just gave birth to a son. I leave you. What? Yes, I leave you. Because I want to find out if there's something that is not impermanent. And the father said, why are you afraid of impermanence? He said, well, father, you will die one day. And he said to his wife, you will die one day. And to his son, who was just 3 months, you will die one day. And the father said, yes, that's true. But we will return, my son. You are master in the teaching of reincarnation. We gave you the best teachers. And the son said, that is the problem, father. I want to know if there's something beyond that transiency, that horror of transitoriness. And that's what we're talking about here. Let's see if there's something. We have the presentation of the Book of Light, ancient doctrine, billions of years old, directly from Akasha, dictated to the great Chuan, to me. And with that, we want to, to end the suffering? Yes. What a high task. End suffering, dear friends. To end the suffering. Is there another suffering than the suffering of transitoriness? You tell me another. You tell me. I don't know of any. Many people may argue, so what? That's life. It's temporary and this and that. But while we live, we can enjoy. But there are a few that say, I want to look behind the veil. And then you're right here. Welcome to the Book of Light. Now, let me directly shock you with a message. Men, women, children, animals, plants, minerals. They all listen. You think they don't listen to what I say? They listen. This teaching leads to nirvana, which is beyond the heavens of religion. And it is a teaching that therefore is called Attakavachara. It's a doctrine that's not in the realm of merely abstract concept. It's rooted in intuitive perception. And you heard my lecture about perception. Logic leads to it. But at the door of nirvana, you have even to drop thinking and logic. Because in nirvana, you don't need that anymore. You are free. You are not even your thoughts. You have a thought. Yes, that's true. In order to understand the machinery, you would have to know that your thought is an activity that is a material activity, although very refined. Done with what? With your etheric mental body that then reflects on the physical. This would be a way to look at it. So, This is the method of the Book of Light. This is the method of the great Johann who dictated me the Book of Light under the bridge when I was homeless in Los Angeles. And when then somebody came and saved me, and I had a big group and everything. But you see, all of you who listen now, in Los Angeles or in America, I was too much attached still to my senses. I couldn't be your guru. What I passed on to you, that was guru. The rest, forget it. See, but now I can say I'm still not a guru. Oh, help me. No. But I point towards the important aspect that the Book of Light is guru. Nothing else. So in the light of this method of the Book of Light, there is a understanding of the cycle of rebirth in all its depths and heights. And then this understanding helps you to follow the path. Finally, either you want to return, reincarnate, or not. So you see, all our follow-up sequences of the path actually are steps towards nirvana. This is the purpose of my lectures and the purpose of the Book of Light. You have two options. You return or not. It's up to you. It's up to you. Now let's go very deep into it. And some of you, or many of you, I should say many of you, who listen to me may say now, no, I don't want to listen any longer. Now this is exactly your anatta, your personality that you are not, but to which you have yielded so much, for so many incarnations. That is a danger now. It says, what? You want to detach from me? Either somebody says, I'm a beautiful young woman, and look at my body and everything. You want to, this Lanu want me to detach from that? Are you crazy? And another young man may say, I'm in my vigor of life. I'm strong and everything. I have every day another young girl and kid and whatever. And he wants me to detach from that. I want nothing. I want nothing. Just to be aware of your transiency, or of that transiency to which you cling. It's a completely different thing. You are not that transient, but you cling to it. You will see why. And if we can overcome it, or if we can cling to it in a way that it doesn't cause so much suffering to us, because many argue, well, I love life, I cling to it, I have sex, I have this and that, I drink, I smoke, I this and that, and so what, next life I do the same. Actually, that would be a correct argument. Why shouldn't they not? Next life the same. What's the problem? The problem is that we all together are on the way back to the source, and everything becomes more spiritualized and refined. By natural radioactivity, the forms will be more and more refined. The genders will merge into one. They won't be any more man and woman. Believe me. See, and in order to understand that, you would have to study the Book of Light. You would have to be aware or to read a divine message from the true God and so on, in order to understand that. And then you see where you are. Once you see where you are, that's no problem. You then can cling again. I don't say get nirvana. No. I decided to. You must not if you don't want to. It's up to you. Completely up to you, dear friends. And that comes to the problem of suffering. Because in that moment, whereby the taking away of an object, conferring to my satisfaction of will, that moment the object changes, suffering appears. Now, which objects are changing? Everything that you see, everything you are aware of. Some may not be immediately, you may not immediately be aware of the transiency. I agree. I mean, a house, big house. My family live there. I live there. My kids live there. Oh, there's something stable, static. No, 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 no. This will go too. Or a young boy and girl of 16, 17, 18. Oh, I'm forever young. Why? Because in that age, you don't experience the change so much. It begins when you stand in front of the mirror. Maybe when you are 20 or even earlier and you see a pimple. Oh my God, a pimple. Dear friends, isn't it time for you to grow up? Let's grow up. Yeah? Good. Now, when a person finds a complete and exclusive satisfaction of his will in possessing or cherishing some object, in his wife, in his children, in the realization of some idea, there are many things, grow dear to him. Now you see, I don't want to black paint, as we say in Germany, Schwarzmaler. But this object, upon which your interests are entirely concentrated, when that is snatched away from you, and it will be snatched away from you, believe me, because then for you it will be impossible a further occupation with it. Now what do? Life will become worthless to you. You will break out into the lamentation, life has no more value for me. See what I mean? So then, are you ready to look on life from quite a different point of view? As suffering. For a moment, let's assume that. Why not? And you see, these words are of course best when you may on an island alone, or on holiday, or you have some spare times, and don't jump after it again immediately after the lecture in life, and the lecture will lose its power, But this is something that you cannot read one time or listen one time to, and then go as normal. No, as usual. No. That's not. Many do that. Somebody said to me, Lanu, I read all the 10 volumes of the Book of Light in German. It is so wonderful. But now I want again to enjoy life. Okay, enjoy it. No problem with me. No problem with me. But if just 2 or 3 of you listen a bit longer to me, they will decide to the question as how far life must be looked upon as suffering on quite a different point of view. And when you really look at it, you will register otherwise that what happiness may be. Every other satisfaction, purified cognition, cannot honestly register otherwise than under the heading of suffering. Now, immediately I promised you I will not only talk about suffering and the horror of transitoriness. No, there will be also moments where we can stop and think. We decided maybe now, any object of will that can be taken away from you leads to suffering, to the extent that you clung to that object. Or do you say clinged? I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean. If that is suffering, is there an object of will that cannot be taken away from you? That means that it's not perishable. Can you name me one? I would say take it, because that will make you happy. Really happy. Now the Christians and Muslims rejoice and say, heaven is wonderful. Yes, that's true. By the way, a bliss that you experience in heaven world, or let's say this, a bliss that you experience in here on earth, compared to a bliss in heaven world, The bliss in heaven world is 10 billion times greater. So you can imagine why people cling to that, although it's transient. That gives. See, I give you only here food for thought, so that you and I have the duty to tell you about all states that you can reach. And I just tell you there is something beyond the physical world. Now you may argue, well, heaven is not physical. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is super refined Mula Prakriti, root matter, in its first Akashic vibration, whatever. But you see, it changes form, and even if you live there 1 million years, you say, oh, great, 1 million years. Well, at the end of that million years, you will see the Buddha went to heaven and saw the angels at the pralaya, how they were pressed together because they had to leave. They were drawn into the source again. There you go. This is why Jesus said, this is the true meaning of what Jesus said. He said to his disciples, you have something where you can lay your head on. I have nothing where I can lay my head on in this world. And many didn't understand him. Many didn't understand him, dear friends. Yeah? So, therefore we could say, when something perishes, it is taken away from you, from you, from me, from everybody. I have to let it go. You want to cling your body to your body like a zombie filled with blood, and it's not possible. You have to let it go. See, and most people don't want to die because they identify with the personality, with the body. That's the first wrong thinking, that the powers of darkness infiltrate to you life after life, so they can enslave you. But they will reap their karma, believe me. They will learn through suffering, or they read the book of light and come to the light side. So then, are there imperishable objects of will? Or let me put it otherwise. The real ultimate criterion of suffering is transitoriness. Whatever is transitory is painful, and this is why I titled this lecture, The Horror of Transitoriness. The Book of Light teaches there are 3 kinds of sensation: pleasure, pain, and that which is neither pleasure nor pain. Do you know of anything else? Tell me. There's pleasure, there's pain, and there is neither pleasure nor pain. And as in regard to the impermanence of things, that you can say whatever is felt belongs to suffering, because things are subject of annihilation. Annihilation. What a word. So then, is this a world of suffering? The answer is yes. It's a world of suffering. Because the entire world, entire universe, its relative awakening, which is not a Big Bang as science thinks, because there is no first Big Bang. How foolish can you be? A little child could come and say, wasn't before, prior to that Big Bang. Now that was the main problem of Hawking, So he assumed some pre-universe. But what childish is that? A little child could come in and say, what was prior to that pre-universe? So this entire science is on the wrong way. In 2 aspects. First, the source of everything is in you and not anywhere out there. And secondly, there is no first Big Bang, but there is a periodical reawakening of everything. Therefore, there are explanation of the machinery, space, all beings, and root matter. These 3 interact periodically, leading to the world with everything in it. And the beings are called in the Book of Light monads. So, now I have sidetracked a little bit. Sorry, excuse me. But we have sometimes to, I can give you only food for thought now that you may say, oh, let me see that in the Book of Light. Where does it say that? And so forth. So you have the link here. You just have to click on it. There are 10 volumes. If you really want to dig into it, dive deep into the truth, believe me. And I'm no guru. I'm just somebody that was dictated to him. And I pass it on. Let the book be your guru. Don't look at me. Although I try my best to live according to Book of Light. Yes, I do that. Let's see. We are made and built up. Just facts. We don't have to leave one step from this world, from the physical body. You can deduct anything from the physical body. I say to you, insight in the physical transient body gives you immortality. You don't believe it? Well, you will see. You will see. So the physical body is made of the 4 chief elements, right? The organs of sense, everything is made of the 4 chief elements. Earth, water, fire, and air. Done? Good. So, well, the Book of Light teaches these are just sub-elements of the one and only element, Mula Prakriti, root matter, but this is not important for now. The reason why I say is there are so many gurus out there that immediately go to some astral realms and say, I heard a voice, and there was an angel, and he did this and that, and it's not necessary. For now. If you have a strong foundation taught through the Book of Light, the Anatta teaching, you can go to any realm. Be it heaven, be it nirvana, of course also hell, but I wouldn't suggest that, I wouldn't recommend that. We warn. You see, if you dive too much into material world, you will end up in heaven, no doubt. In after-death astral realms, and then you learn. Then you learn what happened to you. See? Because evil people think, oh, when I go to hell, I can continue being evil. No. When you go to hell, everything that you thought was good for you will turn against you, and you will be tortured to the extent that you have tortured. Well, as you sow, you shall reap, life after life. I mean, that life after life was removed from the Bible, but as you sow, you shall reap. That is the teaching of the Bible, and the Bible taught reincarnation. It was later removed. Teachings of origin. All these things are revealed in the Book of Light. Glory to the Book of Light. When we look at the 4 elements of which we are made, you could say now, well, water. Oh, water is there always. Let's see. Book of Light teaches a time will come when the watery element will rise in fury. And when that happens, the external earthy element will disappear. And there you will see the great external earthy element will unmistakably reveal itself as transient, subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitude. And all that done by the watery element in its first step. Book of Light teaches also that we will experience a time when the external watery element will rise in fury, and the waters will be hundreds of miles deep, many, many hundreds of miles. But there will also be a time when the waters of that great ocean will stand no more than 7 palm trees high. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. At least only 1 palm tree high in depth. Oh. The Book of Light reveals that time will come when the water in the great ocean will stand only, maybe 7 feet? 7 feet? Or let's say 7 men's height in depth. That's the Book of Light. Then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, finally 1 man's height in depth. Oh, imagine an ocean that is only of 1 man's height. or depth. And then the time will come when the water in the great ocean will only come to a man's middle, to his loins, to his knee, to his ankle. And deeper will the water sink, and it will show that the great external watery element will unmistakably reveal itself as transient. Ruin, destruction, vicissitude. So these elements in which you now revel so much and you adore and admire so much, they are transient. They are transient. Wait and see. You can escape that situation. Then you cannot only listen one time to my lectures here. They must become your entire life. Then you will understand. And every question that you have about origin and purpose of man and universe is revealed in the book of light, book of books, Savior of mankind. Dear friend, now that was the watery element and the earthy, but we have also an airy element and a fiery, and it shows that also there is transitoriness. The great external airy element will unmistakably reveal itself as transient, subject to ruin, destruction, and all vicissitude. That is a reality, dear friends. That is a reality. And nobody wants to listen to it. They say the Earth's heat is rising. Listen, the Earth's climate changes with or without you. You have nothing to do with it. And if you soil the Earth to whatever you want, the climate will change on its own. And it will blast you away like maggots from a wound. Because you don't want to learn. There was a time when we had everything. We didn't even have to work. Everything was there. But no. We wanted more. Now, thus all matter comprised under the heading of the four chief elements shows itself subject to what? To the great law of transitoriness. And the same is, of course, the case with all things formed by it. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, your body, our bodies are formed by that, no doubt. Yeah. And therefore, immediately after we look at this incessant vicissitude of all material things, we can then say, what is with this body? There is nothing here of which I can say I or mine or am. Nothing whatsoever. Because your body is too subject to ruin, destruction, and vicissitude. And accordingly, to the transitoriness of the remaining components of your personality, it is self-evident. Everything is transient. Everything, listen, everything that you are aware of as arising and passing away, you cannot be. Otherwise, you would pass away with it and you would arise with it. See, you are not even your thoughts. They say, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am, Descartes. Well, there are moments, for many people not, I agree, but in soul breath meditation there are moments when you don't think at all. And still you are. Give yourself the opportunity, at least one time a day, to meditate half an hour, so you become the center again, and not what you are now, the circumference. Away from the center, being drawn by the media, being drawn by senses, by pleasures, by lusts. I'm not a holy man, but I tell you, the more you dig into pleasures and lust and this and that, the more you drift away from your core. And then you wonder why so many billions, I could say, of people are depressed. Of course, because they are not anymore in contact with their inner self. And then come the big frauds and the so-called gurus. They tell you then you can find yourself. You cannot find yourself. You cannot be aware of yourself. Because everything Every consciousness and awareness goes from the one who is conscious to that of which he is conscious. So therefore, by consciousness you cannot reach salvation. By detachment, yes. But in order to detach, you would have to, I guess, learn what is transient. Because only the transient you can detach from. From nirvana you cannot detach. From heaven, yes. Take that, or who may fathom it? Who can fathom it? May fathom it, dear friends. So we can summarize right now that the corporal form, now I say something radical, no matter how wonderful your tits are and you're behind. Okay. It's transient. The maggots will eat it. Wake up. Look for that is not subservient to arise and passing away and to destruction. Look for that. I lead you to that. The Book of Light leads you to that. I'm just a Lanu. What does it mean? It means student. I'm a student of the Book of Light, to whom it was dictated, and I pass it on to you. That's what I'm doing here. And see, I don't want to sell you books. I don't need that money. I have enough money. And since 30 years, I don't take 1 cent from my books. This goes all to a little publisher, a little publishing company. They pay thousands of dollars for each book, especially when there are, like in the Book of Light, so many illustrations. They are thousands of dollars behind in the red number, so to speak. But they don't care. They want to spread this message to be spread. And I told them it is too early. It's too early. It should be done in 100, 200 years. No, they said no. Here we are. Here we are. You may agree the corporal form is transient, especially when you listen to me now, to my corporal form, that has a cold. I caught a cold. And I wish I would be able to talk to you in a better way, but I can't. Yet I don't want to waste time, because who knows how long that body will stay with me. See, this is the point. So I use every minute and second. Now, if the corporal form is transient, what about sensation? Because we experience sensations, right, with the body. Well, if the body is transient, sensation is transient too. If sensation is transient, the arising of sensation is transient too. What conditions sensation is transient too. When sensation arises from that which is transient, how could it be permanent? It's not possible. But when I detach myself from the transient and from the mortal, then what remains is the immortal core. Yes, that's true. Who dares it? Who is the warrior? You know, Mike Tyson is a little lollipop compared to that fight that you would start to fight now when I talk to you. To let go of that to which you clung so many lifetimes, and which has an authority and what's the name for it? Has a presence. It says, what? You want to get go of me? Are you crazy? I am the dweller of the threshold, it may say. You were satisfied with me so many lifetimes, and now you say, just because Lanu says I'm transient, you want to let go of me? I'll show you. And it will show you. To the extent that you clung to that which you essentially are not. Many have written to me, Lanu, I wrote the Book of Light, and then suddenly I meditated. Such an overwhelming power came over me not to do it, and I didn't do it. I say, okay, don't do it. But at least you tried. You did the first step to escape the horror of transitoriness in order to attain true immortality, which is beyond time and space, by the way. And the Book of Light teaches that time is just the awareness of transiency, nothing more. You know, they always come with these, they write books about time, what is time, and then they are very intelligent. It's all nonsense. Time, you have only the illusion of time when you experience transiency. Morning, day, night. So you put it then in parts, in seconds and minutes and hours. You could also say Google Daddle and Babel Booble and Beeble Bobble. It's all the same. See, one have to see that you are dealing with transient matter. And then you experience it as time. Yes, that's true. That's correct. But time per se does not exist. It is a moment, it is an awareness of transiency of that of which you are aware of. Nothing else. Nothing else. So if you detach from your desire from that of which you are aware of, then you become timeless. How is that? Well, begin the first step on the Jacob ladder, the first step to liberation, to deliverance, sorry. Yeah? Now let's look at the mind. Oh, the mind is something beautiful. No, let's look at perception. Well, we were talking about perception. It's transient too. So when something underlies the arising of perception, or what conditions it, this is transient. When perception arises from that which is transient, how could perception not be transient? I mean, a 5-year-old can understand that logic. Now we come to the so cherished mind. Let me make it clear. If you want to reach nirvana, mind is very important. Not in nirvana, but to reach nirvana, to reach the door to nirvana. Then you have to drop your mind too. If you drop it too early, you risk insanity. If you cross a river in a boat, and let's say that boat is your mind, and you cross a river, the wild river, when you are on the other side of the shore, do you take the boat on your shoulders and move on? Just for that example now, of course not. You don't need it anymore. But people do sometimes the mistake, say, now I understood, yes, I let go of thinking. This is to be compared with those who cross the river with high waves, and in the middle of the river they leave the boat and say, I know now, I come to the other side without the boat. Just as an example, they drown. They be reincarnated again to start anew, which leads us then to initiation and all these interesting words of which we will talk. So the activities of mind are transient. Can I prove that? Of course. There are moments when you don't think and then comes a thought, right? And then the thought disappears. If you would be your mind, you would have lost consciousness when the thought ends. So you're not your mind. Mind arises in you and passes away, or you use mind, you use your mental body, which is not at all the physical. All these things are taught in the Book of Light. But just for now, let's remain here on earth. Let's not even consider the high teaching of man having 7 bodies and not 1 and so forth. It's not necessary. We stick with 1 right now. No? So the activities of the mind are transient, and what underlies the arising of the activity of the mind is transient too, or what conditions them, you could say. Yeah? And then the activities of the mind which arisen from that which is transient, then how could the activities not be transient? Excuse me. This is a chain of logic. A chain of logic. And if we look at cognition, that is transient too. There's a rising of cognition, and that which conditions cognition is transient too. And when cognition arises from that which is transient, how could it be permanent? No way. So when you look at all the 5 groups of personality, then you can say they are groups of grasping. And then what can we say to them? Still with both feet on earth, no guru talk, no pseudo-esoteric. We can see by own empirical experience, so to speak, arising shows itself, passing away shows itself, and during existence, vicissitude shows itself. So the whole personality, the whole world is, if we follow that thought, painful. And it comes down to how many words? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I think now in my head, whatever is transient, that is painful. 6 words. Yeah. Or 2 words. Big formula. Transiency, or transience equal painful. Transient equals painful. Or transitoriness equals suffering. But we don't look with fear or anger to that of which I call suffering. No, we identify it. We are logic, and we then do whatever we want to do with it. Do we want to continue to be attached to ourselves, or is in us already a yearning for that which cannot be taken away from us anymore? Think about that. But when I think at average people, not to put down our average people, not at all. We are all gods in the making. It becomes clear to me and I saw so many people dying, dear friends, when death comes near. There is a complete breakdown of all willing. Everything is torn away from you. Your prosperity, your relations, your own body, in which, I hope not, but I witness as many times, in the pangs with which you may be writhing. And then together with that, the entire rest of the world is for you only an ocean of misery. And don't tell me different. I witnessed this so many times. One lady in Los Angeles, she was dying. She went in my group. She was a Christian. She came to my group, and then when she was dying in the hospital, she was quite rich. She spent a lot of money for the church, and so she lay there and she looked at me, and the cancer was in her skin and her face, and she was smelling already, the smell of death. She said to me, Lanu, I'm afraid of dying. I say, what? What? You are a Christian. According to your teaching, to your Bible, you go to heaven. And she took my hand and squashed it, and I thought it would be broken. And she said, but what if it's not true? Dear friends, do you want to die without being clear of what happens after death? Without having experienced it in you, not only by me talking or by reading the Book of Light, because the switch will be turned to the other side, and then you will lose the fear of death, because you will see that only that which you are not is dying, and you will see the mechanism why you reincarnate. I just allude here to it, but because of the skandhas. Permanent atoms remain after death. They regroup around the new pregnated womb, and there comes, you are drawn it again. Because that's where your desire is. Now you may say, I didn't want this life here. I live a poor life, I'm sick, I'm this and that, I have no job. I didn't want that, so don't tell me that I wanted it. Yes, you did. Or let me put it the other way, by your actions, you caused this, but then you still didn't know why you didn't have the teaching. You thought you can do whatever you want. The Book of Light is the book of consequences. Do you know what that means? It throws right back to you the rope of responsibility on which you hang yourself, so to speak, or which you cling to life after life after life. There is nobody to blame. You are not the product of your parents. Don't bother them. Don't blame them for anything. You are the product and the result of your own acting, of your own thoughts, emotions, and deeds. Now, how's about that? Think about it. a huge load will be taken away from you if you stop blaming others. Yeah? Welcome to the horror of transitoriness. You like horror movies? Here you are in one. And believe me, if you first listen to it, it's a bigger horror than any horror movie you saw. But it shows you also the way out of that horror. In order to show you the way out of it, it's better to know how it is, why it is such a horror. Every being is reincarnating to and fro inside the samsara, inside the 5 rounds samsara wheel of reincarnation. It's mostly shown wrong because it's not a perfect circle. It's more a spiral development. The circle doesn't teach it right because then you would be no learning. No, it's not a circle. It's a spiral. It should be named the spiral of reincarnation. The spiral, samsara, the spiral of reincarnation. Are you aware of the endlessness of your wandering through the worlds? Do you know how many times you have been here? Book of Light teaches maybe some of us since 150 billion years. Oh, trillion. We are in America. The German says billionen, but in America you say trillions. 150 trillion years, wandering. So many lives, so many times, being this and that, being beggar, being demon, being decapitated, being oh my God. And this is why my teacher Beatrice Fleming said, and also the Johan, and I said, show me some past lives. And I saw some. He said, if I would show you, you would get a brain stroke in a second. So better ask not for it. And when you're ready, I will show you. He said, well, okay. During long time, we have experienced suffering, pain, and misery. We have enlarged the burying ground. Isn't that, dear friends, long enough to be disgusted with all the productions? Long enough to turn away from them? Tell me. Are you still hungry? No or yes? In both cases you should listen. Because either I show you, you will use the way out of it, or you will use a return that is as painless as possible. If you, the Book of Light teaches the consequence of the countless reincarnations, just by one man or woman, in the course of rebirth, this heap of bones would be higher than a mountain for one man. But because material changes constantly, then it is already worked up, and some goes right into the air in etheric forms and so. But, you know, the height of a mountain, ceaseless change of birth and death, just by the bones of one single creature. A veritable mountain chain of chalk would be accumulated. Yeah. And I read somewhere Voltaire saying, "Le globe ne contient que des cadavres." The globe contains nothing but corpses. Oh, we don't become unhappy or depressed because of that, because in the back of our head and of the teaching we always say, because we mention now the horror of transiency, we also teach the way out of it. Otherwise I wouldn't. If I would just talk here about the horror of transiency, that would be irresponsible. I would leave you depressed and suicidal. I don't want to do that. Suicide doesn't work. You come back so fast, you can't imagine it. And you are spun again and bound again and on the samsara, on the wheel of life and death. What do you think? What is more? The flood of tears that you have shed. From birth to new death, from birth to new death. When you were united to disliked, separated from the liked. When you were complaining and weeping. What is more? The flood of tears caused by that, or the waters of the 4 great oceans. You bet it's your tears. Your tears. How long or how more do you want to continue crying, shedding tears? Until you understand, my teacher said to me, the eyes must not be able anymore to cry until humanity can understand. So, there are things that you have experienced that have caused the shedding of tears. You have also experienced the death of the mother, the father, the son, the daughter, brother, sister. You were sick. You had a lifetime of sickness, maybe. And while you have experienced all that, you also may have been united to the disliked, maybe even now. You may be separated from the liked, right? You run from birth to death, from birth to death. On this time you have shed more tears than water is contained within the 4 great oceans, believe me. Now let's take a look at your blood. What is more? The blood that you have shed on your long way of the path after you left Nirvana down to the material world and so forth, and so many different bodies, minerals, plant, animal, man, and so forth. While you were running from birth to death. The blood that was flowing at your decapitation, yes. So many times. Or the water of the 4 great oceans. You say, no, not me. Yes, you. You have shed, sentenced to death as murderers, more blood than being extended than there's water contained within the 4 great oceans. You want to judge a murder here, a guy who kills 10, 20, or 1,000 people, you want to judge him? You wouldn't be in this level in this world if you wouldn't have done the same already, or maybe you will do it. Well, will do it may not count, because when you listen to this, you can't do anything wrong anymore after a certain time of struggle against the dweller of the threshold. Yes, that's true. Decapitation, you were decapitated often. We have here the karma of decapitation. Look at the religions, how these people decapitate each other. You think that comes from nowhere? This is Atlantean karma. Everything must have to be outlived. You can't escape. The camera's running constantly. The karma camera. Now, the Book of Light teaches that we were mineral, plants, animals, and now we are in the human kingdom. Now, you were a cow. You were a dog. You were a flea. You were a bee. You were everything. Now let's stick with the cows and calves. Through a long time, you have, just for instance, cows and calves shed more blood in being decapitated, or what do you think they do with these animals? Decapitated, while you were again and again running to new birth and death. What is greater, that blood that you have shed as a cow or a calf or whatever animal, by having been decapitated, than the water of the 4 great oceans? The blood. Yes, take it with humor, dear friend, and open your eyes to reality. And don't let the gurus and pseudo-esoterics on the internet tell you anything. If you want a guru, take the Book of Light. Take the teaching. Don't take me. I'm just passing it on as imperfect as I can. As you can hear it. Yeah? I just give you the food for thought. Now let's take a look at... You were also a buffalo, maybe? Or a buffalo calf? Well, they are decapitated too. They are slaughtered too. More blood. What is more, the blood or the water in the ocean? The blood, the blood, the blood. Now, when you were a sheep, a lamb, you've been decapitated. You see how important it is to finally decide to become a vegetarian. I mean, plants suffer too, yes, I know. But it's a kind of moral, it's sort of a moral thing too, that we don't need to eat something that has blood, because you have the fear of the slaughtered in it, and it makes you bestial, more bestial than the beast that you ate. Wake up, man, and wake up. Now, when we look at sheep and lambs, or goats, he-goats, she-goats, deer, stags, what's more? Swine, pigs, anything else? Well, other. Yeah, birds, doves, geese. Yeah. What is more? The blood that you have when you were a geese, or a goose, or a hen, or a dove, or a swine, or a pig. They decapitated you sometimes. They slaughtered you. What is more? The water in the 4 great oceans, or that blood? That blood. So don't look too much back until you are ready for it. That's what I say. And you have in you maybe some tendencies to be cruel or this and that. Don't fight too much against it. Just augment your vibration, and these things cannot touch you anymore. Don't try to push them away or deny them. That's the worst that you can do. If you deny any weakness you have, it crawls in from the other side. All you can do is to augment your vibrations by studying the Book of Light and by listening to the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, for instance. Oh, my dear friends. And I don't include the stay of you in hells because of your horrible deeds. Oh, yes. Oh, you think you're a saint. You never did anything. Yeah. I know it's difficult to follow me on that way of the Book of Light. Even if you agree with this judgment on the value of your present life. Every possibility of your own immediate insight, which according to the Book of Light forms the only real criterion of all truth, seems to be wanting. Dear friends, when you study the Book of Light, you will understand. There's a declaration that we ought only to believe what we ourselves have recognized. See, if you recognize that, what I say is truth, and it's truth for you. If not, take it, leave it. Read another book. Do something else. We are no cult. We are no so-called sect, you know. We are a house with open doors and windows. Everybody can come in and come out. So it's just a question of time. Time is not so important. This teaching will one day embrace all mankind and unite all religions in the world. Who cares when? Who cares when? You in your core are timeless, eternal, immortal. So if you reincarnate one time or 5 billion times, it doesn't matter. That's all up to you, of course. See, if you follow a path that I did in the world of the senses, here you have a specialist, and you're listening to a specialist. Excuse me, different. Excuse me. If you waste your time doing that, good luck. You will be born suffering again. Yeah. This truth as to the nature of our existence before and after birth is such that it can be found in a purely indirect way to anybody who has common sense. And this can be done through the Book of Light. You know? And when you look at the great religion, Judaism, Christianity, Mohammedanism. What else? Well, Zoroaster and so forth. They have a base karma and reincarnation, although they deny it, but it's there. We are here, dear friends. I'm introducing you. I'm going with you right now the path of hypothesis. And it's good so, because I want to lead you by your own common sense to that to which you may agree. No. Because a mere hypothesis can come to immediate truth. We have theories about the ether and the origin of the world, origin of rotation. Although these people are wrong because they think rotation happened by when material particles crash into each other and then comes rotation. That's childish. The moment the monad contacts matter, root matter, a rotation appears. That's the movement of the gods. That's the origin of rotation. You know? You have an iron stick, so to speak, but magnetized, and there is iron powder in a glass or something, petri dish. So then you put the iron stick in it. Immediately, all the iron power, and because that stick is magnetized, will be attracted towards that center. That stick is now the center of all the thousands, maybe, of powder particles of the iron. And if you turn the stick, you have rotation. That's the cause of rotation. Nothing else. Rotation is caused by that which causes matter to rotate. Dear scientists, I know that science one day will have the Book of Light as a must in their schools and universities, especially the Book of Light for children. So, how can I talk to you by not going too much into detail, but to point always toward the Book of Light as a tool for deliverance and liberation? That leads us to the term morality. Now, a moral man feels that if there's only one life, he is very unhappy, because there's no reason to be moral or good or bad or whatever. If there's only one life, you can be what you want. After it, your death. Why should you care for anything? You're done. You're gone. See what I mean? This is what Al Capone said. He said, "I live now. I'm the ruler here. I kill as many as I want, and when I'm dead, so who cares?" And from his point of view, he was right. That he actually caused now actions that would lead him to hell and to suffering and to a new life. That's something else. He didn't know about the teaching, dear friend. So then he did what he wanted to do. Well, that's how we learn. We don't need the Book of Light for salvation, to make it clear. We don't need my lectures for salvation or for deliverance. No. They can shorten our suffering, though. That, yes. But eventually, and if you live 5 Mahamanvantaras, cosmic periods of activity and so forth, sooner or later you learn. But why do you want to suffer so long? That's a question. Not necessary. I am here with the message of the Book of Light to end your suffering by offering you 2 possibilities. Nirvana or reincarnation. Choice is yours. But in order that you can choose, you must know what you choose. And this is why the Book of Light has 5,000 something pages. That's the reason. Or there is also an exception to that. The Buddha had students, a cow herd, a man, how do you call it? A shepherd? Yeah, a shepherd, the sheep. He was not very intelligent. He came to the Buddha and said, "I want to find truth." The Buddha said, "Sit under a tree, close your eyes and shut up. And whatever happens in you, Don't get involved with it, but just observe its arising and passing away. That man reached, after 1 month, he reached nirvana and returned constantly to the body and was one of the basic students of the Buddha. Others may need months, years, a lifetime, 10 lifetimes. It depends on your willingness and on your state of attachment at that moment. Because then the dweller of the threshold, your anatta, may rebel, and it will rebel. It will rebel. And this is, you see, why detachment has to be combined, or the will to detachment, with wisdom. Otherwise, there are exceptions. But then these are people who have in past lives already experienced such and continue now on that path and reach quickly nirvana. But normally, you need the teaching that goes pari passu, in parallel with the meditation, in order to let go of what you are not. What are you not? That which you experience as arising and passing away. What is arising and passing away? Your physical body? Your mental body too. I haven't even mentioned now the 7 bodies, but for now I do it. And your etheric body and your astral body containing your emotions. And your higher mental body, your soul body, your spirit body, that body with which the dear Christians identify themselves, as heaven, as forever to live in heaven. They can't live forever within heaven, because even the spiritual body is transient, subject to decay. No matter how great the bliss is, it will be taken away from you. So if somebody says, I don't mind, that's okay with me, no problem. Even then, especially, you need the Book of Light, so that you can experience in meditation already all these different stations up to passing the heavenly realms, then to nirvana, if you want to let go of the heavenly realms. This is the bliss or the happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses. When you don't feel anything anymore. Now everybody might ask, well, how can there be bliss when I don't feel anymore? That is the bliss. That you're even free from feelings. And yet you are not destroyed. In nirvana, you just don't say I anymore, because there's nothing anymore to say. But you return from so many times the Buddha did return, others from nirvana to the physical body, then to teach again, then to meditate again, they go to nirvana again, back and throw. And when they would be asked, how was it in nirvana, they couldn't answer. They were silent. In nirvana, you have no ears, no mouth, no language, no this and that. Solve the riddle in meditation by listening to the teaching, which leads you to the end of suffering from the transiency, from the horror of transitoriness. The universe appears and disappears with everything in it. After disappearance, it rests and appears again. And it's like you go to sleep at night and you wake up the next morning. So the cosmic system, like a computer, 0101 or 1212, repeats itself everywhere. You can escape it or you can live in it. Now, even then you really need the Book of Light, so that you may not stumble and fall on the path, which is always painful. There are so many modern enlightened persons. Oh, they are enlightened. Huh? They doubt all that. But never people who have an eye for the real boundaries of the possible and for the criterions of reality. This can only have its grounds in the existence or in the knowledge of the existence of all these different cosmic realms through which we travel. From life to life, from planet to planet. That has to do with planetary chain teaching and so forth and so on. And so on. And then we can easier decide to jump off that train or to travel with it. Sometimes when I'm silent, I try just to find the right words, or to let the right words come to me. If there is something contrary to your will, you suffer. You experience that in little things. Oh, look at the baby. You take away his toy. Suffering is the hindering of a will. And it continues until you are grown, until you die. Unless you understand these things and don't yield to them anymore. There is an influence of will in the investigation of truth. And most scientific theories have that will, no doubt. And they teach evolution, but they don't understand true evolution. True evolution is simple. You leave the source, you have a spiritual evolution, you fall into matter deeper and deeper, you have a physical evolution, and by coming out of that material structure and returning to the source, then there is again a spiritual evolution. That's all. And you return to the source more conscious of your divinity than you left it. That's what happens. And of course you can make a shortcut. You can say, I don't want to come back anymore. See, most people die with the will to live. That brings them back to life. That's the cause of reincarnation. It's so simple. They write books about reincarnation. What? The cause of reincarnation is the will to live. What else is there? And according to the law of energy of Meyer, that's exactly what happens. Energy can't be lost. If you desire something, that desire will remain on its corresponding planes, which is, in our case, according to the Book of Light, the astral plane, etheric plane. Then it regroups around a new womb, and there you are again. Now, if there are no skandhas, no desires left, you won't come back. Earth is the best place to attain nirvana. Do you know why? In hell it's too horrible, and in heaven it's too blissful. That's one of the reasons. As I mentioned already, dear friends, there is, of course, evolution and creation. So there's no need for those people to cut each other's head off, and the evolutionists say, no, there's only evolution, and the creationists say, that's only creation. It's all nonsense. Both exist. The being leaves the source. The timeless, eternal, uncreated, timeless, immortal being leaves the source, falls into matter, is surrounded by matter, driven by desire. And this you could call an evolution. During the downfall into matter, this being, this monad, on its way to godhood, is supplied by garments by other hierarchies whose karma it is. Now there you could say there is a creation of a body that is like a tailor who makes you a jacket or something. They gave us thought about 18 million years ago and so forth, the Manasaputras. We didn't have no thought. We had latent in it, yeah, but no vehicle to express thought. See, therefore, those we can call creators. But the being itself is uncreated, a timeless, eternal. And there you have also the evolutionary process back to the source. So, of course, there is evolution and creation in one. And see, the evolution that I mentioned, when the being leaves the source and falls into spiritual matter, that is only half of the process, namely the process of becoming. And the second half brings always about decay with the change of forms. And then the complete collapse of all forms. It must be that way. You cannot wear all the time the same clothes in life. You must change them sometimes. Yes? This is how you can think about this. Think about a metaphysical goal beyond the realm of transitoriness. Because you came from behind the world and fell into this world. What I mean is, you are not from this world. This is why you can become everything in the world. Because you're not of it. See, if you are an artist and you have your material there, you can make with the material whatever you want because you are not the material. Always use these simple examples to explain to people the wonder of life and death, or of there's no difference between a person who dies and birth, life and death, and the entire universe. You are a microcosm. You are a tiny cosm. You are, so to speak, a copy of the huge cosm in which you were born or in which you fell. And you follow its laws, which then are called the laws of nature or of karma reincarnation. But basically you are inwoven in that web of that creature. We live on the atoms and molecules of a God. And there are many of them. So the belief in the gods is not wrong. It's not wrong. It's right. So if there is a thought of evolution, if you formulate this way, then you come near to the truth, looking for the center of gravity within yourself. And not anymore in the species, but in harmony with your own inner nature. You are the center of the world. The center of the universe can be experienced by you in meditation. Imagine all the money that we would spare by these foolish scientists who build rockets and everything and soil the atmosphere and the universe with their dirt and fly out there to find the source. How stupid that is. It is as stupid as if you would look for the source of a sea on its surface. Oh. How we need the book of light, dear friends. Now it's only a few, but soon. Wait and see. Wait and see. This is timeless. This teaching is timeless. It is from Akasha, from 150 billion years ago. All the other scriptures are also correct. They're totally correct. Bible, Quran, everything correct. If you don't take them literally, or unless you learn about their core, which is the teaching of the Book of Light. That's why they are united again in it. Without that they must change much their individuality, no. But at least they would stop cutting their heads off. Because that's karma too. Well, we were talking about cutting heads off, right? How long do you want your head being cut off? You want to escape the horror of transitoriness? You want to leave the wild ocean to go on dry land? Then please listen. We are talking here about the annihilation of suffering. I wouldn't waste my time just to entertain you. I do that when I'm on stage, and even that is not anymore so important for me. So, because when I sing my songs on stage, and 100,000s come to listen to it. Just go to YouTube, you'll see it. But do I really help them? Isn't it so? If somebody wants to attain nirvana, which is freedom from emotion even, that I stir up their emotions with my songs. So if I would be consequent, I would stop that. But I'm a Lanu. And I'm now old, although I feel very young, other than I have now this cold. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, I just am here to pass on the truth to you. Do with it what you want. All of what I am talking about here is about the true essence, about your true essence, and how you can approach it. You can try to answer directly or indirectly. You can indirectly answer the question, who are you? By determining what you are not. what you are not. And that much you understood already now, or maybe, you see, some people come here with a knowledge that they have been printed with, they have been educated with their whole life. So if I come out with this knowledge, there's something in them may rebel and revolt. But if you dare to ask the question, what am I not? This, the Book of Light teaches, is the better way. Well, okay, let's say we cannot decide it beforehand. We don't want to, we have to be serious here, because I dig deep into you now. And you feel that already, right? So, I say, the Book of Light says, I say nothing. The Book of Light says, the indirect way is certainly the safer one. Because what you are not can be determined with certainty, at all events. But a positive answer to the question as what you are could raise doubts as to actually whether you are, or you are that wherein the answer asserts your essence to consist. And you may be wrong. You may be wrong. You say to yourself, I am this and that. The people, they say, I am my thoughts. I love to think. Well, I say, well, that's exactly, if you want the correct answer, you're not your thoughts, you just have them. You just create them, you just bring them forth. That's a completely different thing. Those people may be shocked, you see. So, and then they maybe understand that they are not their thoughts, that they only use mental matter, you say. Then the question goes, well, if I'm not my thoughts, who am I then? Wrong question. And maybe after a while they will be ready to stop asking who am I, and will be ready to stop asking who am I not. And then we peel the orange. We peel the fruit, until we reach the core. Did we hurt the core by it? I don't think so. The seed. On the contrary, we made it free that it can continue growing. And while we peel, we say, this is not the core, 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 until we reach the core. And I led you already, I think, to that path, to the correct answer concerning your essence, by asking, what is the essence not? It cannot be that which is experienced by the essence as arising and passing away. That's not possible. Not possible. This contrast between I and not I, self and not self, dominates the entire world, every individual being. So we would have to draw a boundary line between I and not I, between the I and between what that I is not. A cut we have to make, and that cut has to be made in the proper way. And it can be better made in the proper way when you ask, who am I not? Because when you say, who am I? And you may say, oh, I'm my thoughts, you would have prevented yourself to detach more and reach your true core. That is the line between atta and anatta, between I and not I. That is the most exact line to be drawn. I invite you to examine if that was been determined, the boundary, in the right manner. First of all, we would have to discuss then a criterion about which the Book of Light makes a distinguishment between I and not I. This criterion is very important. for the question, who am I? By restructuring the question, who am I not? And of course, the Book of Light does not leave you in the dark as to these criterions. In all chapters, you're constantly pointed towards it, you know. Especially also in that little book, Divine Message from the True God, Nirvana. By that I don't mean a creator God, and I'm no atheist. Solve the riddle. So now that you have listened to me, do you still dare to say, I am the I? By I mean E-Y-E. I don't think so. It's an inadmissible statement, because you perceive an originating and perishing of the I. But then you would have to think my I, in that now just the, or myself, is originating and perishing. That's not possible. See? No, your non-self is originating and perishing. And therefore, you cannot assert that you are the I, that the I is the self. Many people say, I am my eyes, I am what I see. Okay, they may so. You know, they learn their way. The more the eye has been taken away from them, life after life, a certain disappointment may come to them. Is that possible? Saw a blind man in Berlin, a beggar. He was not, he was really blind. You could see it. He didn't even have glasses, and there were 2 big holes in his head. Horrible, horrible. And I gave him €10, €10. And he felt it. He said, oh, sir, thank you. Oh, sir, he said, you are lucky you can see. And I told him, there is nothing to see. And I left. So, what you perceive originating and perishing, that cannot be assumed to be yourself. No? This is a formula that should become quite clear to you, so that you are able, this extraordinary simplicity, penetrating it in all inner obviousness, deeper and deeper. Friends, when somebody tells you, I'm not that which originates and perishes, that could be discussed. He could be right. How do you know? When he says to you, what originates and perishes is not my I, or not myself, that can be disputed. Can be disputed. So, correct him and say, maybe, but what you perceive originating and perishing, that cannot be yourself. Right? And you may think about it. Because any thinking creature cannot doubt such common sense talk or a theory or thesis. So what you perceive to originate and to perish must be, logical consequence, something completely different from you. Of course. It is that easy different. The truth is so easy that most people don't want it that easy. They want it so complicated that they can, But the truth is easy. What you perceive as originating and perishing, what you perceive as arising and passing away, cannot be you. You can explain that to a child that sits there and people are passing by. You can ask the child, are you these people? No. Why not? Well, I don't know. Well, then I explain to you, because they came from the right and they went to the left. They passed out of your sight and you're still there. If you would be these people, you would disappear here in consciousness. So you are not these people. You're just aware. You perceive their coming and going. So, that you then exist does not have to be questioned. This is clearly, very clear. You don't even have to prove that. All you may have to want to prove is what you're not. You can then even continue clinging to it, no problem. But just try to draw the line for a while, so that you don't cross it too often, falling into the anatta and becoming slave of your senses, hurting yourself and others. This is why the Book of Light is there, and it helps me. I read it every day. I know it by heart, but I read it every day. You better believe. And you see, when you have a pain, you cannot be identical with the cause of your pain. If you would be identical with a thing that you behold perish, you could not experience pain through this passing away, because whatever is in its own essence is transitory. How can the transitory be unhappy about being transient? Is transient? Is this nature? No, the one who is not transitory, who clings to the transitory, of whom it is taken away over and over again, that's to the extent that he clings, he suffers. And everything you see to be transitory is transitory in consequence of its nature. The hand cannot throw away itself. The transitory cannot experience this transitoriness as painful. Are you clear about that? That of whose true nature it is to arise and pass away can never be unhappy about it. Only you who cling to it. Only you, to the extent that you identify with that which arises and passes away. Glory to the Book of Light. Yeah. Transient. That which is transient, its nature is transitoriness, so it cannot suffer from it. No way, no way. So the body is not actually suffering. You are suffering. That part of you that clings to it. Think about that. Think about that. And try to meditate yourself more and more in a state of detachment from that which you are not. Repetition is the best teacher. And so I rip away from you everything that will be ripped away anyway at death. So I don't take nothing that will not be taken away anywhere. You decide how you attached, how you grasp it, how you are attached to it, and so forth. I cannot consist in that which, because of its transitoriness, causes pain to me. No way. Well, there are people that are masochists. They cling. 50 Shades of Grey is the most selling book, 100 million books, about somebody who spanks as a naked woman and has sex with her, and 50 million, 100 million people buy it. Can that tell you something about the consciousness of mankind today? Can that tell you something about the clinging to the transitory and the horror of the transitory? And so many who are in that state of consciousness may say now, I don't want to hear that, let me enjoy life. I will. Can enjoy life, no problem, by God. Both criterions to determine the realm of the I, or of the not I, not self, that of perceived transitoriness and of suffering. In consequence of this transitoriness, suffer the one who clings to that which is transitory, of course suffers. That leads us to an interesting conclusion. Is this or that permanent or transient? Well, if it is transient, you may answer it is transient. The question may come, but that which is transient, is it painful or pleasurable? Well, in the end and in conclusion, it's painful. And can you say then to that which is transient, painful, subject to all vicissitudes, this is yours, this is yourself? Of course not. And so, are you ready for the shocking truth? There is nothing permanent within the world. Nothing. Everything recognized is transient, subject of incessant change, especially the parts constituting your personality. This is true. This is a truth, a simple, simple truth. Everything is not the self, is anatta, is not you. And on the other side, you stand. You know? Or let's put it this way. On one side is you. The real you that left the source behind the world of appearances. But on the other side is the entire cosmos with everything in it. Which of course also is prone to duration, origination, dissolution. Dissolution. The universe itself is of course also transient. This is why we are here. Alike attracts alike. Only just that the universe remains for 311 trillion 40 billion years to then re-emerge into the ever to be unknown, because it cannot be known, because as I have told you, you must drop also thinking before you enter nirvana, which excludes maybe most of mankind, but I can't, it can't hinder me to tell you that's the teaching of the Book of Light. And if you like heaven, you better study the Book of Light, because it'll lead you so quickly there. And it will teach you that you can return in heaven. It will teach you when people die, Christians die, Muslims die. Don't force them knowledge of the Book of Light, but help them to find that heaven in which they believe. You can do that, because you develop in yourself the energy to tell them that's true. If they ask you, I want to reach heaven, can you help me? Yes. Don't tell them, no, heaven is transient, take nirvana. That's nonsense. They will come by themselves, maybe one day, in one next life, to the question, is there something beyond heaven? That even the Bible says is transient, but is wrongly translated in eternal. See, this is why I also say, avoid the masses. Don't go to big demonstrations. Don't run around and say, the Book of Light, as they do here with the Quran and the Bible. Let them do it. If you study the Book of Light quietly in your room, live a modest life, eat once a day, a light vegetarian meal, drink water if possible, have a moderate sexual activity, at best with the person you are really together with, married or so. You know, that's the purpose of marriage, is the transformation of the pure sexual into the spiritual, because there's another person, not only for one night or one day, and then there's a child, and then there's an apartment, there's a job. That means you have to direct your attention to many other things. That's the purpose of marriage. Many people don't understand it. Yeah? And they think they marry because they can outlive their lust, and suddenly they find out after maybe already a month, the man may say, that's always the same, they're laying in bed with me. I don't need that anymore. I was trapped by the lust that I felt for her. And she may say, well, if she only looks for lust. And she experienced lust while they met. And she said, oh, I will have that my whole life. And suddenly after a month or two or a year or whatever, she says, oh, how boring. Oh my God, I'm married now. See what I mean? Human being is a spiritual being. And all your decisions should be guided by spiritual reasoning. Yeah? So therefore you cannot say the I is the self, because that's an inadmissible statement. See, we are peeling the fruit now. You perceive an originating and a perishing of the I. But if originating and perishing are perceived, the result would be myself originates and perishes. It doesn't. It's still there. Therefore it is inadmissible to declare that your I is the self. So it's not the self, it's anatta. That concerns the forms. That concerns the originating and perishing of the forms. You cannot be the formed, otherwise you as yourself would originate and perish. No, you're not. See? You're not the I. You are conscious of something. The I is conscious of something. Yeah, that's true. But that's not you. You activate that machine. You took that over from many eons ago. And you were supplied, for instance, for thinking by the Manasaputras in order to understand by thought the world. Okay, why not? You know, but whatever culture you have, one day the sun will swallow you up. And that's it. And as there is a reincarnation of the earth, there is a reincarnation of the sun. So there's a constant coming and going. And when I think again of the teaching of the Buddha, he said, I don't want to have that anymore. I don't want to come and go anymore, or to experience coming and going. He went into the forest, he left everything, had his guru. Guru said, now you have reached it, but he meant actually heaven, Brahman. See, that's why the people don't like Buddha, because he said to the Brahmins, Brahman is not the highest. He said the truth is Para-Brahman, beyond Brahman. That's where Brahman comes from. Oh, were they upset until today? Yeah. So, when you perceive originating and perishing of thirst, for instance, are you thirst? Oh, I'm thirsty. That's wrong. You should say, I feel thirst, or I have thirst. Then you could say, because thirst is also not you. It's your body who's thirsty. Now, the body of an alcoholic would say, I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. Body of a fat man, I want more, I want more, I want more. And he is complete in enslavement of his body. See what I mean? Now, I hear your question, what is to do? It's all in the Book of Life. If you continue doing that, yielding to your body, you will be born with none or very bad functional organs in next life. And your parents are not to blame, you are to blame. If you want to use the term blame. I say learn. You learn this way how to get control over that which you are not. That's the whole thing. Get control over that which you're not. Get control over your anatta. Until you have tamed it. Until you are the boss. When you look at mankind today, they are slaves, not only to the Illuminati or Bilderberger or Soros or what they say. No, they are slaves to their physical bodies. They are slaves to their anatta. And the black magic ruler, the sorcerers, know that. And they try to activate that non-self more and more to get people more enslaved. And actually they are stupid. These Soros and other powerful. Also they are possessed by demons. But they are stupid because they don't know the consequences. See, the demons tell them, don't you worry. Yes, there is the law of karma and reincarnation. But we will build a wall. Like Trump said it. Excuse me. So, we'll build a wall. And whatever you do, if you serve us, the accumulating karma will be held back by the wall surrounding you. But the day will come when the accumulated karma has accumulated so much and it crashes over the wall down on the people, and they reap what they have sown. They reap the consequences. They will be drawn to levels lower than hell, where they suffer, and that's how we learn. Why not? That's how we learn. Or some of these intelligent people who are abusing their power may say, I listened to Lenu, I think I spread the knowledge now. I don't want to suffer. And something in them says, you will, if you continue to doing what you do. So these people who are convinced, allegedly, by the demons that there is a dam protecting them and that will hold the karma back. They will see. And you see, demons can only, they are astral beings. They can sometimes manifest in the physical plane, and you see a demon, and also because the etheric plane reaches closer to the physical ether, more and more ether, fifth element, flows in our system and so forth. Yes, but basically a demon can only live through your astral body, because he has only an astral body, a karma rupa, be they the pisachas or others. So there are demons have urge to, a desire to eat, to drink, to this and that, and they cling to that astral body, and they urge you to do what they want, and then you feel it as something that you actually don't want, but you yield to it. If you don't know by the Book of Light, if you don't know the connection of these things that happen to you, you may think it's you. It's not you. Yeah, you did the first step, but then you permitted them to enter. You left your door open, and like you leave your door open in an apartment, and you say, everybody can come in. I love you all, okay. And suddenly there are some bad people with it. And you cannot discern, because they are very cunning and clever. That's how it is with the demon. I say 99% of all the people in the world are possessed by demons, more or less. With regard to motion, whatever kind of motion, we can establish a priori. It can only be perceived in comparison with something at rest, compared to that motion. From that, it follows that also time, together with everything in it, cannot be perceived if there would not be something that had no part in the same, with the motionlessness of which we contrast the motion of time. So we teach, the Book of Light teaches, time is the awareness of the arising and passing away. See, they say the sun rises and the sun passes. And there are some others who have completely lost their mind. They say the earth is flat and so forth. Yeah, well, everybody may say what he wants to say. And there's an analogy to the motion in space and time. And there must be something immovable within your consciousness. Otherwise, you would not be conscious of that which moves. And so, the Book of Light calls you, using grammar, the perceiving subject. Yourself, unmoved, unchanging. And before you runs time and the universe, arising and passing away. And the problem is the extent to which you cling to those motions, to these changes, to what extent you identify yourself with. Yeah? So therefore this has to be taken into consideration, and the circle and cycle closes. There is nothing permanent in the world. Everything is transient. Everything is subject to incessant change. Everything, and especially everything, as I mentioned already, our personality. So the components of the personality included, it changes, and to the extent to which we cling to it, we suffer. That which changes suffers not. Don't think that for a moment. But that which is attached to it, when that which changes is taken away from it. There's a certain suffering aspect when you are possessed or obsessed. Because you see, a demon wants to live, wants to look through your eyes and speak to your mouth in the physical world. And that's just whatever movie we see there when the demon articulates himself. But to a certain extent, the demon suffers too when the body is ripped away from him. He immediately attacks another person or tries to tempt the other person by helping him to yield to all kind of desires. And now we dig deeper. Is it possible or impossible to escape from suffering, to escape from the attachment to that which causes suffering, for us, not for it? And that is the transiency, or transitoriness of all objects to which we cling. Let us first say it as unemotionally as possible, for suffering is rooted in the world's structure, in the entire world and all its component parts. It's an eternally fluid condition. Yeah? We teach in the Book of Light that prior to the physical evolution there was a transient etheric evolution. Spiritual, you may call it. And we are on the way back to the source. That means natural radioactivity will cause the transitoriness, and the what's the word? The forms to dissolve and to become less dense, transparent, so to speak. What is this world? It is the world that we experience with our personality. Yeah? But for the one who is bold enough to understand the personality is alien to our true essence. And if we want to overcome suffering, we would have to free ourselves from the whole world of suffering, and from the suffering of the world, from suffering altogether. That would include that we don't have thirst anymore, Trishna. Because thirst is the builder of your body. You're your own creator. Even if others, as the Manasaputras and the astral races, gave you vestures, but you yourself demanded it. And their karma is it to give it to you. And when you go to a tailor, you say, I want to have a hat and a jacket and trousers, and so exactly that fit me, he will do it. That's what the Manasaputras did, what the astral races did, what the Chauhans did, and you know, we live in their bodies, in the body of a solar system, of a solar god. And actually, if you enlarge the core of an atom, then its next particle is as far. If you enlarge a core of an atom to the size of the Earth of now, its next particle, an electron, so is approximately there where the moon is. We live on atoms and molecules of a high intelligence, of a being, and we are attached to this. Well, now we could say this being is much higher than we can't escape. Don't forget that Buddha became the teacher of God, of man and God, through self-effort. It's also possible through the study of the Book of Light. Then you are not linked anymore in your next life, or in the next life, somehow, maybe in 10 lives from now, whatever, to the atoms, to a planet like Earth. Or you may even reach a higher astral state, free from physical desire. But that physical desire, you cannot wish yourself, when I die, I want to be born without desire. That's nonsense. That's child's talk. You would have to overcome desire first. Then you are automatically born according to your state of desire, which is now all desire, let's say, when you overcame minus desire for physical pleasures, you won't be anymore in physical world. Who can fathom it, dear friends, may fathom it. And this is why we teach from the Book of Light all planes and layers, cosmic layers. In my Father's house are many mansions I have prepared, says Jesus. Think of the high occult importance of the Bible if you read it with right understanding. How can you be liberated? How can you vanquish your personality and the entire world and reach that realm to which you belong? Book of Light teaches it's not heaven of religion, but you can reach it, no problem. It's one step before Nirvana. But Nirvana is something where there is no birth, no sickness, no becoming old, no dying, no woe, sorrow, suffering, grief, despair, none. Now some people are born in their etheric bodies, and that sometimes after death, even if they're 100 years old, the etheric body is still young, so to speak, it can happen. So they appear young, even in dreams to others. And they live on earth in heavenly planes, and they are seemingly young, yes, but that state too is transient. No? One have to consider what he really wants. This is, of course, what one can reach if he really wants it. But he must understand that personality in its elements is something alien to his true nature or to her true nature. Huh? You want to free yourself from this alien thing? First you have to see it as alien. And then expect a rebellion of that alien thing to which you clung and with which you identified yourself so often. So many lives. And now we ask the question, how can you liberate yourself from that? How can you reach that state where there's no birth, no sickness, no becoming old, no coming, no leaving, no going, no dying, no woe, sorrow, suffering, grief, despair? Where is no despair? Is it possible to find that place? If not, it would be quite cruel of me to even talk about the horror of transitoriness. If there would be no liberation, I would only talk about everything is transient and that we should live with it as good as possible and should avoid extreme things and so forth. But no, there's something else. There's something beyond heavenly realms. There's a source from where everything comes. We call it nirvana. And nirvana means extinguished. And excuse me when I say that now, the insane Dalai Lama teaches to his confused disciples that in nirvana you are destroyed. Well, see, the teacher, if the Chohan hears me now, he will. I don't continue to talk like this. No. Then the whole teaching would be a teaching of destruction, a nihilistic teaching. How can somebody be so stupid to say that in nirvana you're destroyed? In nirvana you don't say you or I anymore. That's true. But the Buddha couldn't have come from nirvana 1,000 times back to the body after meditation, then back to the body and teach and so forth. Then what am I in nirvana? Well, get to work and meditate, and you will find out. And I'll tell you something. When you were in nirvana and return, and they will ask you, how was it? You could only answer, be silent. And that silence is the silence of meditation, fundamented and based on wisdom, on the Book of Light, Book of Books, Savior of mankind. Now the further question arises, how did we tap into that trap? How did it come to be that we identified ourselves with something that we essentially are not? Wasn't that very stupid? No, it was not. It was necessary. By friction with the mortal, we long more and more for the immortal. We know that the groups of attachment are, in the second sense of the word, constitute a product, sankata, act of producing. And they themselves are set for the explicit purpose of making possible a body, sensation, perception, creative mental activity, and cognition. And all these activities were only possible, but the longing in us was there, you see? This is why we were given by other powers, called in the Bible Elohim, these different bodies. So we can say that after the productions, there's a will. And this is our will. And in the service of this production, the will goes at work. So you want something, and suffering is obstruction of will, by the way. You want that, and it's taken away from you. And the normal person, not knowing the book of light, regards that all these groups of grasping as himself. That's a production. And how does it come to be? When a normal, ordinary person is hit by a sensation, started from a contact taking place. In a state of ignorance, of course. We left the source nirvana by ignorance. We had everything, but we didn't know. Now when we return, we will know, or we have to leave again. Now when you have contact with something, thirst arises in you. You see a person, a beautiful woman, a beautiful man, a car, a house, and you may wish, oh, I would like to live in that house. Or I would like to have that car, or that person. So this is how the Trishna and the thirst arises within you. And then from this results the production. Delivered additionally by the Elohim, by other powers who are also in manifestation. You may call them creators of your body if you want so, but you as a being yourself, you're uncreated. Nobody created you. Nonsense. Yeah? You are there always. Listen, three things are there. All beings, the source, and Mula Prakriti, matter. So now that you know who the causes of that, what you hear, the builder, you will have to laugh at it. If you want to overcome that thirst, you will follow the teaching and you meditate. And then you see that the body is Tarhu Padinna, the construction of thirst. And all the productions, also the Elohim and everything, that supplied you with different sheath and different bodies, who later condensed into the physical body of today, they actually, you are their boss, you demanded that. Now some of them, that is the teaching of the Book of Light, hesitated to give thinking. They did not want to incarnate in those beings, and that caused a different mankind of today, and also the entire problem of mankind falling to sexual production and all of that, which never was meant for mankind, by the way. Good. Now, how can you definitely annihilate the productions? You would have to destroy your thirsting will for it. By thirsting will or destroy the will, I don't mean wishful thinking or going on your knees and pray to God, oh God, take away my desire. That's all crap by the church. Don't do that. You follow here the teaching, and if you want to let go of the thirsting will, and that will lead sooner or later to destruction of the thirsting will. And when you have not succeeded enough in this life, at least you have reached something, you will have, that will be a blessing, because in next life you will at least be, even if you are born again here, you will be on a higher level. You see, the more you detach from the world, the, so to speak, higher you will be born, unblemished, untouched by anybody. Visankara gatam chittam tarhanam kayam ajhaga. That is when somebody laughs at the builders of his physical body, astral body, mental body, even spirit body. See, even your spirit body is given to you by Elohim. You should not forget that. So, the productions are your productions. So, thirsting will is your will. So, you are the demiurge yourself, forming stuff in that inexpressibly complicated corporal organism. You are that. You are your own creator. These 6 organs were first refined, transparent, almost like shadows. Later they compensated pari passu with the entire earth, and we have the structure of today, which already has passed its lowest structure about 9 million years ago. Entire time of the change of the universe, 311 trillion, 40 billion years. And over 150 billion years are passed, and you can get off the train, so to speak. You can jump off and go to Nirvana if you want now, or you can, guided by the Book of Light, travel from life to life as with as less suffering as possible. You know, this is the teaching, and so you know by now, your thirst for life brings you to life. There's no escape from that. If you thirst for life, you will be reincarnated. Don't thirst for life, you will not be reincarnated. But you will not be destroyed. You just thirst no more. Here you have a definition of nirvana. Now, when you reach nirvana, the entire world disappears for you. The entire world disappears for you. You disappear for the entire world, but you don't disappear for yourself. Solve the riddle. You have just to say each day incessantly, or repeating yourself, whatever you experience as arising and passing away does not belong to you. You are not this. This is not yourself. And by that you actually say that the 5 groups constituting your existence are qualities of you, yes, but no essential ones. You get rid of them. And this is also meant when you can mean the change of character. Possible. They can easily be removed. You are in your deepest essence not, or in no wise, affected thereby. This is what the teaching says. You can get rid of it. You may be poorer now that you have don't have this or that, but that is only a personal statement, so to speak. You know? Can you say you can be free? Even that you can't say. Everything that you are attached of is suffering, prone to disease, and therefore not you. That suffices, and it is not necessary to define if you remain or not. This would be a limitation again. When you don't want anything anymore, and you're not conscious of anything anymore, and you don't want any sensation anymore, it's not that you lose something good, but you get rid of a burden, of an immense burden, at least for him who has penetrated the entire truth. So now when you have contact with the eyes, with the ears and so forth, you see only suffering. That includes, of course, if you want nirvana, the most beautiful music. Doesn't matter. It's a hell. It's a hell sound for you. Why? Because it keeps you attached to planes beyond nirvana. This is why. Of course, heavenly music will bring you to heavenly planes, no doubt. Oh, the mantras will bring you to heaven, no doubt. But you see, we teach that you listen to the mantra and then you shut off the mantra and meditate in the silence. Then you are aiming past heavenly realms to nirvana. Yeah, you know. And you may ask me, what is the burden? Well, the 5 grasping groups are the burden. Which 5? The grasping group of the body, grasping group of sensation, grasping group of perception, of mentation, and of consciousness. This is, from the highest point of view, for you a burden. And you can get rid of this burden if you want. And then you have a certain insight where you say, well, what perishes is just suffering. See? And then you don't, there's only one will that you have, to become free from will. See, the point is that most people argue, well, if you want nirvana, there you want something. Or if you will nirvana, there you will something. Yeah, that's true. But that will vanishes once you have nirvana. While when you want heaven or earth or hell, the will constantly, when you have satisfied your will, arises anew. Willem Busch said, ein Wunsch, wenn mal erfüllt, bekommt automatisch Junge. A wish that you have, once you have fulfilled it, it causes again new wishes. That cannot happen with the wish that leads you to nirvana, I promise you. Cannot happen. Now we're talking here also about liberation from the horror of transitoriness. But that would be, or liberty, see? What does the word liberty actually mean? Because people are using words not knowing what they mean. Book of Light teaches that there is a negative conception of liberty, not a positive. You are set free from something, from some hindrance, from some limitation. But it doesn't say what you are when in this manner you are freed. Now what's the highest liberty? Well, for Christians and Muslims is the heaven, no doubt. Holy liberty. Liberated from all limitations. Now, there are limitations by external circumstances imposed upon you. But we here speak about liberty also free from the law of nature given together with and in our personality. And then you have overcome rebirth. Because right now you are in the limitation to ever be born again, over and over again. You're not free just because you're listening to me. If you don't want to be if you don't want to reincarnate. Sorry, dear friends. Sorry. So, and because you have not yet freed yourself from Trishna or Tanha, Sanskrit and Pali, then you are still subjected to what? To illness, old age, and death. If at all you live old age or experience old age. And again and again and again, you're being entangled in an unwholesome becoming. So, do you want to shake off from you these limitations? Do you? Do you think it's easy? It's not easy. Maybe it's easy. Depends all on your state of attachment. Some people are reincarnate with little attachment. They are already on the path, For them it's easier to follow my words. Others are so deep woven in the swamp of desire that they may say, no, it's not possible. It's not possible. I cannot let go. Well, then learn by suffering. You can lead a horse to the trough, but it must drink itself. Yep, so to speak. Good. Ooh, you see, limitations. I had 36 fever with a thermometer, and now I have 38. Ooh, here's another evidence of transiency, the horror of transiency, And I cannot influence it. Yes, we can put some pills, some this, some that, and here and there. But the body has its own laws. You see, and you experience these laws, especially when you acted against them. Of course, infectious diseases like grippe we have here, and influenza and so forth, is also karmic, no doubt. Then some may argue, yes, but will, I am the will, I wanted this. No, you're not your will. If you would be your will, there would be no salvation for you. Then I would have stopped after 2 minutes of lecture. Can you English language very, very difficult. Are you able to free yourself from your will. If you are free, if you are able to free yourself from your will, then this very act frees yourself from your organism. You won't be reborn anymore with this organism. Depends how strong your will is not to be reborn. Your desire for seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, emotions, thoughts, and so forth. See? The grandeur of the Book of Light is that thinking leads to non-thinking. Understanding leads to non-understanding, in the sense that in nirvana you don't need understanding anymore. Leads to non-character. You see, a child has not yet character. A saint has no character anymore. You can't touch him. You can't do anything to him. He just experiences it, but that's all. So, are you able to free yourself from your will? Are you? And are you looking for salvation from some Jesus? Of course the Master Jesus exists. The Book of Light writes a lot about him. Do you think it is enough to kneel down and to say, "Dear God, take away the desire from me," Lanu is talking about? Are you that naive? Yes, you may be, because most of mankind is. But the time has come, dear friends, to change from believer into knowers. So, you can say that the 5 groups of grasping are rooted in willing, no doubt. So, therefore, are you ready not to be ever and again subjected to illness, old age, and death? Always being entangled in this unwholesome becoming. Are you ready for that? That's the point. Because when you're approaching death, when there is no will, there's no new grasping to bring about. And no new organism. Think about it. Don't you want to come back? Then, by study and meditation, you have to detach yourself from any kind of sensual willing. Step by step, because most people can't do it at once. And accordingly, you will be reborn. Dear friends, now my temperature is rising to 38.2 degrees, and I tell you something, I'm so happy. Because I experience basically what I'm not. I don't want to have fever. I don't want to cough. I don't want to lay sick in bed. So something else does that. And that gives me great joy. Because it proves to me and tells me I'm not you. Even that's something that is transient. I'm not you. You cling to me and you experience my transiency. Yes. Who can fathom it, dear friends? May fathom it. Only in relation to transitory phenomena can sensation take place. Just because of the transitoriness of that. It's the forbidden fruit, dear friends. It's the forbidden fruit. That we are, that's the story in the Bible. We left paradise, which, according to Book of Light, was not some heavenly region, it was nirvana. See? Yeah. And the Garden Eden came later, so to speak. So, because of transitoriness, whatever is felt must, in the end, be always painful. Wonderful experience, example. You are thirsty, you see a glass of fresh drink. You make one little taste, that tastes. That tastes good. You drink the entire thing. You feel good. 3 hours later, you're dead, because then the poison kicks in. That drink was poisoned by a poison that you can't taste. So tasteless poison. What now? How's your judgment now? Think about that. See, whenever young people say, "Oh, this is such a sensation," I tell you, dear young people, that the capacity of sensation equals the capacity of suffering. Real sensation, real suffering. Therefore, radical teaching of the Book of Light, you experience suffering or you experience nothing at all. So, and you can do something about it, because you can limit your desire for sensation so that it will not cause too much suffering. That you can do, no doubt. Dear friends, I had to go that deep into the horror of transitoriness, so that now it may help your decision process to detach from that which is transient. In order to reach that state of liberation, your thirst and your will must be annihilated. Your will for transient sensations. Your will to experience the pleasures of the thirst. Now, people say, if I let go of something, I want to have something else in return, and that's perfectly right. Why should I teach you to let go of something in the end you have nothing? Then better cling to it. No. That's a bad exchange. The great Buddha said, as long as I did not experience the happiness beyond the pleasure of the senses, I over and over again fell to the pleasure of the senses. But then, when I reached nirvana, when I experienced the utter bliss, free from all transient experience, then I was able to detach from the pleasure of the senses, from the thirst. Because don't forget, Gautama Buddha was a young man. I mean, when he was 16, he had already 100 women in his harem. One more beautiful than the other, none older than 18, and so forth. I mean, there was quite a temptation for this young man. You better believe it. That's why he was confronted with the anatta. And constantly these naked women danced before him, trying to tempt him, but he was strong. The Buddha was strong. Go. If I have no will, no more thirst for the world, then in coming death, for want of a will, I will not grasp any more a new germ, or skandha as we call it, and there will be no more sixth sense machine to have me entangled, or to whom I will be attached. See? Because this body is simply an apparatus serving for the contact with the world. But it won't be built up again. And when there's no contact, there's no sensation. Think about that. And you won't miss the sensation unless you get that new thing beyond the pleasure of the senses. Oh my God. So where there's no sensation, there's no more suffering. Abolition of perception and sensation. How can there be pleasure or happiness when I have no more abolition and sensation? Well, that is the happiness. And because you didn't try it, or because this is something, you see, this is just for a few people in the world. When we go higher to the Book of Light is much too early. I am amazed that thousands of people already read the Book of Light. I said to the Chohan, no one will read it. He said to me, fool, sit down and write. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So, excuse me, dear friends, I am I have again a little pneumonia. I had 6 times pneumonia. Can you imagine? Everybody else would be dead. And no, I'm still there, but who knows? So I use the time that's left for me to talk to you. When you have insight into the transitoriness of all existence, your thirst will be annihilated. You see, this is why I talk so detailed about it. To give you insight into the transitoriness. And I feel for those of you who want it, of course, that your thirst can be annihilated. And then your grasping is annihilated. And through annihilation of the grasping, your becoming is annihilated in this transient, painful world. And by the annihilation of becoming, you won't be born. You will be unblemished and unsoiled by a body. See, for a saint who is liberated, even an angel stinks. Excuse me when I say that brutal young. Because an angel is made of matter. That means he's surrounded by matter. Now, compared to that, we stink for the angels. See, and our bodies is feces and everything. And the angels are free from that. They have just transparent structure. But a nirvani who has attained detachment for everything, for him, even an angel, because he's surrounded by matter, will smell strange. So, and when there's no contact, there's no sensation. No contact, no sensation. And you will be satisfied with your food, not to train the body to have this extra contact, because the food makes contact with your body, with your organs of digestion and so forth. And you will be more and more free from these things. No contact and no sensation. No more suffering. The whole chain of suffering. It's called Paticca Samuppada. Is then forever abolished. You know? Isn't that a great goal? And then it may be, it may be that you suddenly are in the street or somewhere at home, where you see something that before caused a sensation in you. Something pleasing. And now, after lectures or after you have a little bit read the Book of Life, suddenly you look at it with a different point of view. Suddenly it's not pleasing anymore. What happened? You may ask, why is it not pleasing anymore? Because you have attained wisdom. Because when the eye is pleasing, when something is pleasing to your eye, you suffer. When something is pleasing to your ear, nose, tongue, body, organ of thought, you suffer. You may say, oh, but these thoughts that you give to me, Lanu, are pleasing. Yeah, but that's another kind of pleasure. That pleasure will end your desire for pleasure, because then you will reach that plane where there is no more desire. Who can fathom it? May fathom it, dear friends. Same with the will. Yes, there's a new will, the will for nirvana. But that will won't arise again once you have nirvana. There you go. The difference with the will with the world. You want something in the world and it was good and you want it again. This problem you don't have in nirvana. And suddenly you see, and this is of course, I'm talking against myself. I'm a singer. If you Google me, you have 90 million entries. I sold 25 million records. I'm number 1 right now. And I started 1969. Can you imagine that? So, and now I say here that somebody can be disgusted with sounds. Disgusted with the ear, I just said it, auditory consciousness. How far am I ready to let go of that which was the main activity of my whole life? That's a question that I have to deal with myself, I'm not a guru. I can play here a perfect being that says, oh, I'm free, I'm free. Yes, sure. Book of Light is guru. Believe me. Man should not rule over man. We had enough of that. Look around in the world. What happens when man rules over man? This is an insane world ruled by insane people. Excuse me. No, good. So, we're talking about suffering. But we talk, you see, about suffering in a positive way. But we will also come then to finally, how we can end the suffering. But I can't emphasize enough, what is suffering? Then, without further ado, the extinction of every thirsting will can be ascertained. If you don't bring no productive activities. Look, when you meditate, you reach a stage where you want nothing anymore, but you're still there. You just don't want anything anymore. And you skip deeper and deeper and deeper and higher and higher and higher, and then you have an idea of what nirvana could be. Of course, then you fall back in daily life. Then you have to go to your office or this or that, to your family and so forth. You can't do it like the Buddha to leave the family. Then, if that is irresponsible, you should, of course, try to read the Book of Light, to meditate each day, and to adjust your activities so that you will have a better new life. Also, I want to tell you something. Some people say I can't do this or that because I have these and these conditions which hinder me to do what you say. To them I say, listen to the lectures, study the Book of Light, and don't push or force anything. And sooner or later the circumstances will appear that will make you able or enable you to walk the path. The path. Yeah. And now when we're looking at somebody who is delivered already, you make a quantum leap now. When you have stopped forever all creative activities of thinking. See, this is a teaching against creativity. Yes, I'm sorry. My whole life I was creative. I wrote symphonies, I wrote movies, I directed, I wrote 1,500 songs. So a creative activity. And it's shocking for me, dear friends, that the truth is beyond creativity. It is there where you bring nothing forth anymore. You just remain silent. Unsoiled, unblemished from that which has to die. See what I mean? You cannot serve two masters. If you walk the middle path, you read the Book of Light, and you go step by step. But if you want to do it very radical, leaving everything, I warn you. If you want that, rather keep that thought in your mind and wait for the right moment to come that you can do that. And the circumstances will come. If not in this life, in the next. Believe me. My teaching is, or not my teaching, but passing on the Book of Light is, this entire planet should be changed into a meditation planet. And every living being that appears on earth, the first lesson is you don't belong here, but where you came from. From you belong to where you came from, not here. And we show you now how to liberate yourself from this state. Well, that was my wife calling. How do you feel? Wonderful. She said, how can you feel wonderful when you have 38 fever and more? I said, well, I didn't have time to explain to her everything, but I said, I feel wonderful. So, We are talking here about the extinction of thirsting. Because thirsting for this life will bring you back into life. Now, you see, now there are some people that lie to themselves. They are old and sick, and they say, oh, life is such a burden. I don't want life anymore. I want to go to nirvana. I hope I die soon. Well, that's wishful thinking. Because if you would give them a pill that they could continue living and would say, hey, listen, you can live now 50 years more and you are happy and you can have everything, sex, drink. And oh, yeah, I do that. No. See, the angels of karma, the Lipika, you cannot fool them. You can only fool yourself. So, what is thirsting? It is always, lastly, a thirsting for consciousness. Attachment culminates, and we cling to a germ in the moment of death, for instance. In the moment of death, yeah. Even if they say, well, mostly they say, as far as I experience it, I don't want to die. Okay. I said, well, to one man, I said, don't you worry, your will for life will bring you back. How do I know? I said, it will happen. As much as you cling to life, that will bring you back. That's called reincarnation. Oh, I'm a Christian, I don't believe that. I said, that is Christian teaching. It was just removed from the Bible. Okay. You see, but then I said something that I shouldn't have said, because you shouldn't try to instruct a dying person unless it wants to be instructed. Furthermore, if you are a delivered one and you have this, you are detached from all these desired states, Trishna, you know that after death you will be rid of a body, rid of consciousness, rid of sensation. You will know for certain that this state will be unchangeable and therefore in truth an eternal one. Yeah? Because you have no more desire for transiency. You see, if you don't have any more desire for transiency, then the eternal falls into your lap, so to speak. If you don't have any desire anymore, just not because you cannot anymore, but because you don't want anymore, for sexual activity, and you live celibate until you die, you won't be born, you will be reborn on a plane where there are sexless beings of spiritual nature. Of course, that's how the machine works. That's why I suggest to you to read the application for the machine. That's the Book of Light. When you are a delivered one, guided by the Book of Light, you will know for certain that this is your last lifetime. After death you will be rid, as I said already, of body, consciousness, sensation. And you will also furthermore know that this will be an unchangeable state, an eternal one. You're not destroyed. You just don't thirst anymore. How is that? Follow the teaching, meditate each day. Don't cling to this body filled with urine and feces. Excuse me when I say it so drastically. When a delivered one, let's assume for a moment, you have overcome all desire for transitoriness, all desire for sensation. You step out of the world at the moment of death. It goes like this. The productive activities are stopped. The creative action of thinking stopped. No more thirsting will. In and exhaling at the dying moment breaks off. You see, this break off of in and exhaling. That you experienced already in soul breath meditation. You die before you die. You're still in your physical body and you experience that you're not breathing. The gap between exhaling and inhaling, widens more and more. And suddenly you just lay there wanting nothing anymore. Yet you're not destroyed. You're at peace. And you lay there and you observe everything. And if you do that every day, of course, the death process for you is much, much easier. Much easier. So then your productive activities have been annihilated completely without any reminder. And also every consciousness. You don't need consciousness in nirvana. As I said with thinking, consciousness leads you to nirvana, but then when you knock at the door of nirvana, you must drop your consciousness. Because consciousness too is something that you are not. Consciousness arises only when an eye sees an object, then what happens? Visual consciousness. So it's a transient thing that you are not. This is just a sensation that you experience. So when somebody who has detached from everything, when he dies, his consciousness dwindles away, and the corporal organism too. And then, along with this complete disconnection, the corporal organism, you have broken the bridge to the world forever. You made every new contact with the world impossible. But, rejoice, rejoice. The one who has attained nirvana can step out of nirvana anytime, can attain any form in the universe. He is a ruler, a master, a true ruler of the universe. Because he has overcome all desire for the planes below him, or below nirvana, and thus he becomes their master. And there may be then a decision of compassion while touching the spiritual planes, because he sees the suffering of others. But it's not a must be. There are some gurus here who give an explanation. I will come back. I don't want to reach nirvana until everybody is saved. Well, in truth, they just want to satisfy their ego life after life. Believe me. Oh my God, no. That's what they want to do. They want to satisfy their ego. To say, here I am again. Give me your money. I'm your guru. Yes. I always warn about those gurus, because they give you a false illusion of security and of liberation. Because the guru says, give all your things, load it all on me. Load all your sorrow, everything. And while you are at ashram, there is indeed in you a sense of, beautiful. Oh, I feel free. Then you return home after you left your money there in ashram, like with the Guru Mai and all these people. And then those people came to me in the temple when they had no more money and when they were nervous wrecks. And okay, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to emphasize the negative too much, but I want to warn you. The Guru says, and then you feel good and you go at home into your day-to-day life, and suddenly you feel again, it was just, you feel already enslaved again. You remember the time when you were at ashram and you go back there. And you are trapped in that maya of liberation, which is no liberation at all. So when you have detached from everything, the bridge to the world is broken. And every new sensation, every new thirsting will, broken, gone, Dear friends, the annihilation of the entire sum of suffering comes thus about. And the whole circle of rebirth within the world is broken through forever in consequence of the impossibility of a new birth. And then, when you have reached that, you have escaped from the consequences of all your former evil deeds. You know? If you want nirvana in this life. If you want nirvana in this life. If not, you may soften and thin your karma a little bit, but you have to outlive it. Yeah. And this is what it means when it says that through the annihilation of ignorance, the sankhara are annihilated. Because ignorance caused you to leave the source. Ignorance about the transient, painful nature of the material world. That includes the highest heavens too, and the lowest hells. Yeah. But from that you learn. See, an example: when little children go to school, they are first of all ignorant of mathematics and physics and grammar and so forth. Yeah. So then they go to the first class and they learn some. And then they leave that class to the next, because in that class they can't learn anymore, so to speak. A part of the ignorance has been annihilated. See? And the greatest annihilation of ignorance is, of course, the overcoming of all thirst for hell, earth, and heaven. Glory to the Book of Light. So then, when in this and in future lives, you may have attained nirvana, then you remain there. There are possibilities that at the new Mahamanvantara, monads are leaving nirvana, but by a slight decision they can step back, or they remain there. And then we have the Pratyeka Buddha, but they are all things that you find in the Book of Light. I don't want to go into that now. Excuse me, please. Excuse me. Forgive me. This is the goal of this, is the peaceful state. No suffering, no vexation, the annihilation of every kind of perception and sensation, tranquility itself. If you have experienced this state within yourself, you are lost to the turmoil of the world. Even if you may awaken again in it, you are not anymore the same, I tell you. You will have an inclination of mind to solitude. You will seek solitude. You will enjoy solitude. You know. And when they say in the grave, the open grave, give him eternal rest, then they are in error. There's no eternal rest in the grave. You're not anymore in the grave. You're somewhere else. If you would have nirvana, they could say eternal rest. But even with you, if you just touch highest, because you are a wonderful, good person, yes, you touch highest heavenly realms, to hope that you have their eternal rest, that's wishful thinking. Yeah? Opposite of life is not death. Because death belongs to life like birth. And the Book of Light always teaches there is per se no life. There's only dying or death. Because wherever you look, all that structure leads to decay. Sooner or later. Do I say something wrong? I don't think so. Where are the pyramids of Egypt and all the other structures? Of course, the archaeologists dig in the mud to look for something. Nibbana, or nirvana. Absolute peace, realization of nibbana. Highest blessedness. Then we can talk about eternal rest, eternal stillness, great peace. A delivered one enters even during his lifetime, as the Buddha did and others too, nirvana. And completely he realizes it at death, And then the great peace is there, perfect well-being, But there is still, when you describe it, you see, when I describe nirvana, I do something that I shouldn't do, but I just do it because there's no word for nirvana, or the ever to be unknown. Because, you see, knowledge separates you from nirvana. But knowledge leads you at the door to nirvana. Nirvana does not definitely lead only beyond transitoriness. Yeah? There's no change occurring, nothing more, not even nothing more found in him, which he might arise. Because he does not arise, how should he pass away? And because he doesn't pass away, he doesn't die. Nirvana comes when the world disappears for you, you disappear for the world, but you don't disappear for yourself. How is it? I can't tell you. Even the Buddha couldn't tell what nirvana is. Don't get me wrong, he could tell what nirvana is not, yes. But alone the reality that he and others too left from meditation, attained nirvana and went back and taught, and nirvana and went back and taught, shows clearly. You have become still in nirvana, you don't incline. And you neither come nor go, and you neither appear nor disappear. You neither appear nor disappear, There's no here and there, nor any between. It is the end of suffering. And so therefore you can say bliss is nirvana, which is a term which is a little bit, it's words from the world, out of the world, beyond nirvana. It's true. But the thing is, and again, people protest. Even students of the Buddha said that. They had no understanding. They asked themselves, how can bliss exist when absolute rest reigns in a way that nothing more of any kind is even felt? And then when you said nirvana is bliss, they asked, well, how can there be bliss when there is no sensation? Those argue the skeptics. And they said, we rather have bliss in heaven. Yes, you can. There's great bliss in heaven, no problem. And the Book of Light teaches this is precisely bliss, that there is no sensation. Excuse me. This is bliss, that there's no sensation. See? And all of that leads to the overcoming of willing something in the transient world of appearances. You don't even have to will nirvana, by the way. All you can will is to let go of transient desire. Once that will is fulfilled, it won't come back. You have automatically reached nirvana. Who can follow me? This is the power of the teaching. For now, I only spoke frequently about how I can overcome thirst. It would be irresponsible for me to not talk about that too. Otherwise I say, well, there is the horror of transitoriness, the horror of transiency, and try to overcome it. Yeah, well, how? I hinted at some possibilities and techniques like meditation and the teaching, but we have to go deeper for that. Otherwise we would be irresponsible. And we don't want to be like that. Glory to the Book of Light.
Man should not rule over man. Let knowledge rule again. The Book of Light, Book of Books, and Savior of mankind. Aum. Politicians and religion are the fall of man. We don't need no institutions and no government. All we need is that which once united us all. Let the angels' teaching be your guiding star. With the Book of Light, you're guided from above. We don't need no holy scriptures, no Bible and Quran. We have that where they all come from, in our very hearts. We are the new generation of innocence and peace. Knowledge is our leader. The truth shall set you free. It is the Book of Light, the Book of Light and love. With the Book of Light, you're guided from above. Living in a world of peace. With the Book of Light, the Book of Light shall be. The Book of Light, the book for you and me. And in the darkest hour of Kali Yuga, when the world is burning left and right, there is a pillar of hope, and it is called the Book of Light.